understand the investment and planning ahead. And after 2 years here, actually, side note, my second year I also started a cupcake business, but that was really important fundraising, and realized that cupcakes didn't exist in Israel, which was a huge shame. So that was a fun sort of one-year business that came and went, because it's a lot of baking. So my third year here, I was asked to become one of 4 partners in a fundraising partnership that was supposedly unprecedented, of a one-stop shop, all fundraising needs, and I learned that I like the concept of working with partners. Working alone when you don't know the language or the culture is a very frustrating experience. And did that for a year. Was very successful, but realized 4 partners is a lot. In this field especially, that's still developing in a professional sense. So 2 of us split off together about 4 months ago, and our 5 major clients came with us. 7 major clients came with us, and we've been growing very quickly ever since. Both when I worked independently and in the partnership, it was just me doing most of the work, maybe an intern. And in just the last month, we've hired 2 people, which, you know, probably doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's your first time hiring people, it's a lot to manage. It's a lot of responsibility to have to pay people on time. But it's been a fascinating experience, not the easiest, and not the most fun at times. But I've learned a lot, and I think it's a very good option for people who are moving here who want, you know, we say that there's flexibility in being an entrepreneur. I think only when you get to his point where you can take a few months and travel to Asia, it's in India, that's a bit down the line, because it is, like you said, 17-hour days. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of aggravation, it's a lot of red tape, but it can be very, very rewarding. And it does give you some flexibility that you wouldn't have in a 9-to-5 job. So I look forward to hearing questions.
Okay, just before we open the forum to questions from you guys, we've got a very diverse panel here, ranging from beers to cars, storing data in offsite facilities, and raising money for nonprofits and MKs. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions now, and maybe each of you can just spend a couple of minutes answering the questions. The first one is, what was your toughest challenges in starting a business in Israel, and how did you solve them? So whoever wants to start off?
Okay, we'll start at my end since I started from the beginning. I think our 2 greatest challenges, for me at least, was finding the right partner to partner up with, and then fundraising. More than 2 biggest challenges that we had.
Yeah, I've got to agree with the fundraising one. It's never easy to get money to get started off. That was definitely very, very difficult. And also the red tape is a big one. I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but I've got, just to be able to run the service, when we were still 3 people sitting in a rundown, burnt building, we had to start getting authorizations from the Department of Defense, because we were going to be using a unit which broadcast on certain frequencies. We had to get the same license as 3 little kids sitting in a room that Orange, Cellcom, Telephone, and other 8 companies in Israel have, to be able to import this little thing which is sent to the entire world without any problems, without anything. So definitely that was a big problem, and the way we overcame that, both of those problems, and that I think is really the heart, so you touched on it, but that's the heart of Israel, is connections. You have to know people, you have to know people who know people, you have to get out there, you have to go to things like this so you can network and meet more people who know people, because that's how you solve almost every single issue, whether it's finding good partners, whether it's getting the money that you need, whether it's getting the right authorizations which you need from the Department of Communications, the Department of Defense. It's almost everything which is difficult, which we've had to tackle. Somehow it's been through some way or the other, and as Olim, you're at a big disadvantage. It's not a secret, you didn't grow up here, you don't know a lot of people yet. Even I, who've been living here for 12 years, I don't know as many people as somebody who grew up in Israel, so it's something you have to work at.
Yeah, I agree with bureaucracy. can be a major headache dealing with like employees and dealing with the insurance that you need to provide for the employees, as well as just whatever permits you need, dealing with the fire department, administrative defense, all that sort of stuff. In the very beginning, and this is where having good local partners is very important. Basically, our investors who invested in us, who are very experienced in business in Israel, held our hand through this whole thing and showed us the process of how to deal with bureaucracy. And I'm quite good at it, or I've got people who are good at it. The other thing I think is very important to focus on, which is a challenge anywhere for any business, is cash flow. Especially when you're growing your business very quickly. And one of the key aspects that almost killed us if our investors didn't come in and put cash into the business at the time was, say you invoice your customers at the end of the month, and say hypothetically you're invoicing 100,000 shekel on the 30th of the month. On the 15th of the following month you need to pay VAT, which is like 16% of that, so it's like 16,000 shekel. But you only receive that money from the customer 1 or 2 months afterwards. And something like that, not managing your cash flow and not even managing your expectations of tax, because if you don't pay your tax, you're gone. So that's something very important to keep heads on when you're setting up a business.
I mean, I've had, I guess, 2 major challenges. One is being a young woman in Israel trying to run a business. It's a sexist society. You okay over here?
Sorry,
With all the intelligence to the front, can you turn off the speakers?
Do we need the microphone?
No.
So one of my challenges is being a young woman trying to do this in Israel. You know, by 24, I had a master's degree, which is not uncommon in the States, because we finish college at 21 and then we go straight on to do a master's sometimes. In Israel, people are just getting out of the army. They're just getting back from their year of travel. So a 24-year-old coming to you and saying, I know how to do this business well, people will look at me and say, but you're so young. How do you know how to do this? And it was so frustrating. It still is frustrating. I'm 28 now. I just turned 28 in July. And I know it sounds crazy, but I feel the need to be older still. I mean, I was reaching for that 28. I want to get to 30 as quickly as possible. I can't stand. It's very hard to be taken seriously. You know, when I'm approaching chairmen of boards or heads of utilities here, and they're, you know, 70-year-old men who are former ambassadors, and they look at you and they say, "Oh, you're so cute." I'm really frustrated. So one of the ways that I balance that out now is the partner who was one of the 4 that I worked with last year, and then we split off together. He's a 55-year-old man who has 30 years of experience in fundraising from Israel, from outside of Israel. He balances the, you know, that I'm a woman part, because some people I meet with do fundraising won't even shake my hand because they're religious, or, you know, goes against their beliefs. And so, unfortunately, but of course, having him in the room with me makes a difference. They look at him and not me, which, you know, that's a whole other conversation. But so that's one piece of it. Another piece of it, for me, which might not be for many of you, I'm sure most of you thought through your decision to move here a lot longer than I did. But I had the cultural piece that I did not understand the culture. I did not anticipate the culture being this way. The business culture here, I don't know how many of you are originally from the United States, but there's a certain pace, a work pace. You know, you send an email at 9 a.m., you usually get a response by noon at the latest. People are efficient. They have BlackBerries. And here I got every person I worked with on Capitol Hill had a BlackBerry. Here, not one member of Knesset has a BlackBerry. None of their staff, or to use for personal use. They would never use it for business. It was, the pace is difficult, getting people to pay you, even if it's not, I mean, I understand your Succesful piece, you know, where there is people pay plus 30 days and this and that. My plans just don't pay. It's maybe it's because I'm working nonprofits also.
Yeah,
I think that's a big piece. but it's a very casual thing. They don't seem to understand that